Good evening, councillors. Welcome to this, our last meeting of December 2023. As you can hear, I'm struggling with my voice. It gives out entirely. I'm going to pass the conduct of the meeting over to Councillor Chester, who sits to my left. Hopefully we'll get through the next hour or so. The first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. Apologies from Councillor Clark, who's in the following guys, Councillor Davis, Councillor Dubois and Councillor Fuller. Do we accept all of those apologies? Yes. Declarations of interest. Firstly, any disclosable pecuniary interests? Secondly, any other interests? Looking at item 23-12104 to approve the signing of the museum lease as a trustee of the museum, and in fact also a person who's been doing the legal work for the museum trust. I'm going to declare an interest in that. Councillor Chester, I assume Councillor Shearer as well.
Yeah.
Any other interests? Any requests for dispensation? Gifts or hospitality accepted over the value of £50 to report? Any inappropriate gifts or hospitality offered to report? The minutes of the meeting held on the 21st of November have been circulated. Present with myself, Councillor Clark, Councillor Wade, Councillor Reichold, Councillors Hutton, Arnold, Shearer, Davis and Chester. Can I sign those minutes as a true record?
Got three.
Wade, right,
Yes.
thank you.
First one, under Northants Council 23-103, the first item should be 23-103-01, I think.
I've got them.
23-103-01.
Duly altered.
Under 105-05, last sentence, the Councillors Wager and Davis took forward a working party to discuss ideas. That was ideas around QBH, not around a commemorative day. So to make that separation, the commemorative celebrations are a separate agenda item. But we ought to make short clear that that was about QBH, not a commemorative day.
Right. Not totally sure how we can alter that easily on this copy, short of deleting that entirely. It wasn't of course a specific QBH item, unless I just add the words for the QBH at the end of it.
Yeah. And then the last change, under item 2390, should that be 23-105-01?
Sorry, I'm lost here. Where are you?
2390 council matters.
Look at the bottom of page 6. Yeah. So we'll move way. It's 22, not 23 again. Sorry, the other way around.
Yes, the numbering list will be gone slightly up, I think that's something. So that should be 23.
Yeah, just looking at that.
You can correct the.
And so the same would go to the numbering has gone completely haywire, but then there's
Copy and
23,
paste probably.
91.
I tell you what, if you sign them, I will change the numbers. Otherwise we'll be here all night.
I agree. Well, subject to those various amendments, and apologies for the number of chaos. Do we now accept those minutes?
On that, if anybody notices that before this meeting. If you let me know, I can change it.
Okay. Just as a point, just follow it up. Is it right? Could it be that we receive the minutes, the draft minutes of the meeting in the week after the meeting rather than 3 weeks after the meeting? Because it's arbitrary what actually was discussed.
Yeah,
It's
can do
received
that.
3 days beforehand. Makes it harder to check. So if we could do it a week.
I wouldn't
after-
change wording, but something like a spelling error or a number, I would change.
Right, so if we can have that as a matter of course within a week after the meeting, that would be fine.
Okay, yeah.
Right. Well, after that, I'm going to assume Councillor Wade is proposing the minutes as amended. Seconded by Councillor Arnold, I think eventually. All those in favour? Everybody. 19th. Public participation from interested parties. It's too cold, too damp, and too close to Christmas for there to be anybody who's remotely interested in attending, but hopefully there are some viewers. Consideration of requests from interested parties, presumably none. North Northampton Council, I've noticed no Councillor Harrison here.
I've had apologies from Councillor Smithers.
Right. That brings us on to the town matters. And first, to receive an update following the installation of the Angletown Christmas tree and to approve a request to send a letter of thanks to the people involved. It's certainly my pleasure to do that for the Christmas market, which I'm more happily actually came organised, asked them to. All the feedback today and all the feedback I've had since has been extremely positive on the tree and the lights and the whole event. So it certainly seems appropriate to send our thanks to those who provided the tree, who are probably trees. What they
Yeah, we have Lisa did already email them, and we've also had some little signs made up that are on the bollards near the tree, so that people know, because we found that they actually purchased that tree before it used to be one of their trees that they would cut down, but apparently all of their trees are too large now. So they actually purchase it and donate it. So that's what we thought we'd probably do a little bit more, and maybe even discuss if they want to continue donating it, or if they want us to contribute. Lisa's going to discuss that in the new year.
Meantime, it seems appropriate for a formal letter of thanks to come from the council for that. But does anybody else have any feedback that they want to do about the lights?
Well, I do have one little comment, where a gentleman told me that the tree this year was vertically challenged, different words, but same sentiment, and how, you know, what a poor effort it was. And then he suddenly changed his mind and said, but that's actually better than the lads can't climb it. So take your pick.
Right. Well, unlike the tree in March where my office is, at least it was completely straight. I do March, they managed to get a hell of a lot of publicity for their very wonky Christmas tree.
Yes, I did.
Which occupied an awful lot of media presence, both nationally and internationally. So maybe next year we should know. Right, we'll move on to receive some feedback from Christmas market. Again, I must say that the feedback I've been having is extremely positive, and I was there quite early, and I was there later in the afternoon at Knightswich on Time and so on, and it seemed very, very busy. Councillor Arnold.
After having spoken to a few other shop managers or shop owners in the local area, the one thing that they mentioned, which I thought was quite a good idea, was potentially having different sized pitches. So someone said they went to a market in Christmas market in Bedford, I think, which is a much larger Christmas market, but they had, their pitches varied in size. They were like short, medium, long. And they said maybe an idea for, to encourage, what's the word? To encourage maybe more variety in the type of stalls that we have to maybe offer 2 different sizes of pitch.
We offer
Do it.
3x3
Okay.
and a double pitch, and if you want a triple pitch, you can have that.
Really? See, I didn't know.
Mm.
Okay. How many people take up, do we know the numbers on how many take up
I
Different
can't
pitch
give you the
off the top of your head?
figures off the top of my head.
Okay, that's interesting.
But yeah, we get quite a few that have double pitches.
Okay,
Most of the big trailers are double pitches.
that makes sense. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Hutton.
I'm aware, and I think Emma knows as well, that there's been a few comments on social media, and I've had some personal feedback about possible food poisoning.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Oh,
I was going to mention that, I've spoken to Environmental Health. She's aware of the number of comments, and because nobody has been formally tested, obviously it can't be proven. It also technically can't, although people have said a particular store, it can't be completely proven that it's there. And the fact that I think the number of cases was so small, to the amount of food that they would have sold on the day, she seemed to think that it's potentially likely to be viral rather than food poisoning. But she was going to look into it.
On a positive note, I think the lights look fantastic. They also have the price, but they look great.
Yes, Councillor.
One bit of feedback I heard, just from a couple of people, but I only went to the market late in the day, so I don't know if it was throughout the day. But there wasn't much of an atmosphere in terms of music that was being played. I don't know, I seem to recall earlier on in the year there was plans for singers and certain people, I don't know if they did perform, but people who went in the afternoon were saying, you know, that would have added to the atmosphere.
We had somebody playing in Queen Victoria Hall for a good couple of hours. We had the band, Naskington Yarwell Band. I think they played for an hour, possibly an hour and a half. And I think we also had carol singers as well.
The Choral
Yeah.
Society, I think it was GNS, sang sort of carols and Christmas songs for a little while in the lead up to the lights.
Yeah.
was
So
that
it was
around the,
staggered.
Actually around
That
the
was
tree.
around the tree, so was the band around the tree, and we also had music in the Victoria Hall.
Okay, so I know somebody suggested like a German which they thought would be wrong, because you know, a lot of Christmas markets in Switzerland and Germany and Austria.
We also played carols, when the band weren't playing, we also played carols within
I wasn't there, I
Victoria
don't know
Hall.
how you saw it.
So- Yeah, we have a fair bit of
Yeah.
music.
You can't please everybody all the
No,
time.
you can't.
You certainly can't. I mean, whether it's worth reaching out in January to people to say, what did you like about it? Was there anything that you think we could do next year to improve it? Might be worth seeing if we can get some actual proper feedback from the town as opposed to some of the sort of second-hand comments that we received today. All in all, I personally felt that it was a successful event and one that undoubtedly reflects well on the town. To something slightly more mundane, to consider the annual waiting restrictions review consultation. I think there are 2 specific areas which have been suggested. One, the junction Rockingham Hills with Blackpool Road, and then another one down on the business park. I have to say what has struck me during the period of the closure of New Road, which has sent traffic scurrying its way variously down Springfield Road and down Bellamy Road and sometimes off onto then St Peter's Road and so on, apart from the appallingly rutted state of some of the roads, is the fact that actually with cars parked often relatively close to junctions, you end up with two problems. You end up being on the wrong side of the road, close to the junction, because you have to be on the wrong side of the road to pass the parked car. So if anything actually sort of raced around the corner, you went up head on, and often your visibility is restricted. And on that basis, I would have said there are probably a number of junctions where some yellow lines extending back from the junction might not be a bad idea. Whether it would be worth, in coming months, the transport group looking at whether there are particular areas where we would like to suggest something. Whether they get taken up is another matter, but it would be up to us to be able to do that. I certainly think that there are one or two junctions which may benefit from some yellow lines. But based on the two that we've got, does anybody have any particular views about one or other or both? Councillor Wade.
Just two views. One is it's all very well having double yellow lines, but if they're not enforced, then there's no point. But two, doesn't the highway code prohibit parking within certain distance of a corner anyway? So what purpose do the yellow lines serve?
Well, I think you're right in terms of the latter point. I think the reality is that hopefully yellow lines will deter more people because they are there, they're very visible. And I accept the point about the policing of it as well. But on the other hand, it's better than there being no yellow lines and no policing. Councillor Chester.
Some years ago, when we had a little group looking at the corner of the Herne Road, which is a bad corner, off South Road, about the parking on corners, the police say that there is no penalty for it. It's advisory, there's no jurisdiction, and therefore they can't really enforce it. We got the impression that, in a way, sometimes they don't care when people take advantage of the fact that they can't enforce, because where do you park when you're taking your children to school? So I think a lot of the parking up there is probably short-lived in terms of school parking and things.
Some of the parking undoubtedly on the roads around the primary school is particularly marked. Obviously, it's sort of dropping off and picking up times. I've experienced that. But there are plenty of people who park on the road, perhaps because they have little option, but do so relatively close to junctions. However, in terms of the specifics, we're asked to put forward any responses to the suggestions, positive or negative, by the 12th of January. If we have no view, then we can't express one, but I'm not personally so familiar with the one on the business park, where the logic of it seems clear. I am relatively familiar with the Rockingham Hills one, having years ago lived in Seymour Place. Both seem really sensible to me.
I would, if I could speak about the Rockingham Hills one, parking on junctions is dangerous. It reduces vision of pedestrians and other drivers. And that's a particularly high volume junction at school drop-off times. And there's a zebra crossing that isn't shown on that image, but is there, and is used by families. In fact, often families don't use it, they skip a couple of metres left or right of it, because it's ever so slightly faster to that gangway to the primary school there. I think anything that can be done to make it seem clearer that it's safety comes first, around those areas is a good thing. And I think yellow lines are far more assertive than sort of loosely known facts about not parking at corners. So I would ask us to support putting double yellows there. I appreciate that might have a knock-on effect as more people park further up into the estates, but they're far less dangerous than that particular corner, which often has children trotting around it.
Councillor Loco.
I also support both. Well, while of course there is this difficulty that because as things stand, they're not punishable. The police tend not to enforce unless they see anybody doing something that they see as really dangerous. In which case, the police could find another peg to hang a chart on, I'm pretty well sure, one way or t'other. So on balance, I suggest we support both. And see how it fares when NNC put it out to wider consultation.
Any contrary view? I think on balance the answer is we support it. I wouldn't say it's overwhelmingly enthusiastic, but the majority view, such as it is in favour.
So just before we go on, the owl that seems to be working, I think it's recording, but when anybody speaks, it's not moving to them. It's just permanently fixed on David and Val, and I wondered whether, do you want to try and end the stream and start again and see?
We could just
I don't know why.
suspend for a moment and
You
see
want
if
to
we
kick
can make
it?
it work.
No, just no, normally to kick it, but
Normally works.
I mean, obviously there's a recording going on, but it's just not doing.
But it ought to, you know, I mean, the whole object of that exercise is that it focuses on the person speaking. I might have done the majority of it, probably with my voice is not the best idea.
Yeah, if it didn't move to you,
But, you know, there has
it's not
been
moved to you, John.
contributions from councillors. So,
So I'll just quickly try that. It'll just take a couple of minutes if you want to just sort of.
Temporarily
adjust
suspend the
for a
meeting.
second.
for technical reasons. My voice.